Welcome to the Real World. My name is Cameron. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Real World Podcast, episode 102 of the Real World Podcast. We're talking about Steve Carell movies. Let's get started. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Real World Podcast. Make sure you hit that like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos. We're huge movie fans. And today we are talking about Steve Carell, this actor who has been around for a while. We're talking about his movies and our favorites that feature this actor. Joining me on this very special episode is Bert. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing great, Cam. How's it going?
Doing well. Very excited to be talking about this particular actor, comedian. This is going to be a fun episode. Got to watch a lot of his movies this week. So let's talk a little bit about Mr. Carell and some of our favorite movies of his. Here we go. All right, folks. Well, as I said, we are talking about Steve Carell movies because Despicable Me 4 is in theaters this weekend, the fourth installment of this franchise. It's been going on for quite a while now. Several spin-offs with the Minions and all kinds of other things. I've only seen the first Despicable Me, so I'm out of the loop on that franchise. But this was a great opportunity to talk about Steve Carell, who's an actor I like a lot. Bert, I know you're a huge fan of Steve Carell, so happy to be discussing him with you here. He's a 61-year-old
Yeah.
actor born in Concord, Massachusetts. And he's had a fascinating career so far. He's, got his start on The Daily Show. Then, of course, as pictured behind Bert there, The Office was kind of his breakout role on that TV series. Now he's gone on to do big blockbuster films. He's done several indie dramas. He's kind of done it all, in his career at this point. So, he's really consistent too. He's consistently great, I think, in every role he takes on. I wouldn't say I would have been a huge Steve Carell fan before this week, but after watching several movies that I hadn't seen before, I would say now I'm a pretty big fan of this guy. I really think he's
Nice.
extremely talented, not only as a comedian, which I'd seen more as comedic stuff. I hadn't really seen his dramatic side. And after watching all these movies this week, man, I'm really impressed, I've got to say. So glad we did this because otherwise I probably wouldn't have ever, taken the plunge into his whole filmography. That's what's great about this podcast. We get to do this every once in a while. Some actors that you
Right.
like more or that I like more that you get to discover, things like that. So yeah, I think this was a great pick. Um, we're doing a top five list, so we're gonna leave behind the draft idea for a moment, which we've been doing for the past couple weeks, doing a traditional kind of top five list of his best movies, our favorite movies that he
hmm
starred in. Um, Bert, why don't you talk a little bit about kind of Steve Carell, your exposure to him, and how you went about making this list.
Sure. I got to throw it back to The Office a little bit to kind of
Mhm.
introduce the British version of The Office. I was a
Oh,
really big fan of
okay.
early 2000s, and so when it was announced that they were making the American version, I thought, oh, that's it's going to be awful,
Right.
And but then when I found out that Steve Carell, I knew of Steve Carell,
Mm,
but I didn't know him very well. But when I saw that it was him that was going to be in the lead, I was pretty happy about that.
okay.
And then, funny enough, that the first season was kind of a mid-season replacement, so it's not the
Mm,
greatest. But then they kind of changed up the formula a little bit starting in season two, and
okay.
from that point on, it was just tremendous. It's my
Okay.
favorite comedy show of all time.
Okay.
So I was a huge fan even before the movie started coming.
Yeah.
And unlike, I'll say, unlike David Caruso,
Mm,
who left TV to go do movies, Steve Carell did it kind of the right way,
right.
and he has had quite a few really good ones. I don't know that he's ever done like the blockbuster type of film. He's stayed away from those.
Sure.
And he has had some smaller roles in some pretty big comedies.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge fan. I would say he's probably my favorite actor. He hasn't made more movies that I've liked than someone like Tom Cruise.
Sure.
But just as an actor that I would want to probably see everything he's in,
Hmm.
that's that guy.
Yeah.
Definitely for sure. That's a short list, I would say.
Right. Right.
And so yeah, and so for this list, I really tried to pick some variety because he's
Yeah.
done almost every genre. I don't think he's done
Hmm.
horror, but
Right.
so we're still waiting for that one.
Right.
But I also tried to go with best performance, so I didn't
Mm,
tend to go toward the ones that he was sort of like a background player because there's quite a few of those early in his
Sure.
film career.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I kind of did something similar. Whenever we do these actor ones, we've done several: Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, Amy Adams. We've done a few in the past, and I always try to kind of focus in on the performance of the actor. How
Yeah,
great was
yeah,
that performance, or how unique was that performance?
right.
But yeah, I did want a variety too, because like you're talking about, he's done plenty of comedies. He's also done, some much more dramatic stuff as well. I did try to look at, because as you mentioned, he also has done a lot of supporting roles. I tried to focus
Yeah,
in on the starring roles where he's either the lead or
yep,
co-lead of the movie. So that
same.
was,
Yeah,
yeah, that's what you did too. Okay, cool. So we're on
I
the same
did.
page there, it
Yeah,
sounds like. Okay, great. Excellent. Well, sounds like we're ready to get started. I know we both have some honorable mentions. I'll kick it off with a few of mine. One that I really like, it's he's done a couple of animated movies I wanted to mention. One is called Horton Hears a Who, which is based
mm,
on the Dr. Seuss classic book,
yeah,
and I think he does a really good job in that. He's with Jim Carrey in that film as
yeah.
well, and they both do a really good job in that film. It's one I greatly enjoy. The whole family can enjoy that one together. And then the other one is Over the Hedge. Have you
Oh
seen
yeah,
Over the
yeah. It's a
Hedge?
good
I
one.
really
Oh
like Over
yeah,
the
yeah,
Hedge. It's so
yeah.
funny. It's a great
It is.
concept.
Hmm.
And you're playing opposite all kinds of big actors: Bruce Willis and Gary Shandling and Wanda Sykes. A lot of great comedic actors in that film as well. So I like that as far as the voiceover work he's done. A couple of other supporting roles that he's memorable in, I would say, is of course Bruce Almighty. I think was probably the first thing I ever saw him in,
Yeah, yeah.
where he's the news anchor, and he's got that very memorable scene where he's jabbering and
Memorable. Hmm.
all that stuff. So that was a lot of fun. Again, a pretty small bit part. He's not in much of the movie, but I wanted to mention that one at least. And then the other one, similar. He also plays a news anchor in Anchorman, along with Will
Same.
Ferrell. He's the weatherman, and he's got several laugh out loud moments throughout the first Anchorman, and a few in the second. The second one I didn't care for as much, but the first Anchorman I think is a really quite a funny movie, and he's good as part of the kind of ensemble there. And then one I just watched this week from a filmmaker I really like, Wes Anderson. He was in the most recent Wes Anderson film called Asteroid City. It's another small role. He's only got a few scenes in there, but he's great in it. He's really good. He plays a
Yeah.
hotel manager, and he does a great job in that one as well. So those are again some of the kind of more supporting roles. I'll get into it. I have a few more honorable mentions where he's more of a main character. But Bert, why don't you give us some of the ones you have in your list?
Sure. Yeah, yeah. I'll start with a film called Seeking a Friend for the End of the World.
Oh, I wanted to see that. I
And
didn't get to watch it.
yeah, it's pretty good. It's kind of like if the movie Armageddon was if you were living Armageddon and we send up the astronauts to blow up we've seen this in a few movies
Uh-huh.
and they fail 3 weeks before the asteroid gets here,
Oh,
and then everybody knows that they've got 3 weeks left to live. What would you do in that 3 weeks? So
right.
some do, all kinds of, people are doing all kinds of, like they prioritize what they're going to do in their last 3 weeks,
Yeah.
kind of all over the board.
Right.
Unfortunately, the concept's a little better than maybe what the actual film is.
Okay.
um I enjoy the film. It's probably a 3-star film.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yep. And so that's pretty good. And then
Mhm.
one that I didn't think I was going to like as much as I did was Cafe Society. I don't know if you've heard of
Oh,
this
I've
one.
heard of that. That's a Woody Allen film, right?
Yeah, it is
Yeah,
a Woody
yeah,
Allen film,
yeah.
but honestly, it was pretty funny.
Okay.
It's a throwback to almost probably 90 years ago in
Oh,
Hollywood,
okay.
and kind of some things that happen. And you could say that Carell's probably the second lead in that. And it's fine. It's some a good entertaining film. I think I'm right at probably about 3 stars on that one as well.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to check that one out.
And yeah, there's some good, it was a very clever script and
Okay.
some funny moments. So
Okay, cool.
yeah. Then next I'll move on to The Incredible Burt Wonderstone.
Oh, see, that's another one. I
And
wanted to see it, and I haven't had a chance to watch that one yet.
yeah, he and Steve Buscemi play magicians that have this show in Vegas,
Okay.
and it's kind of like what happens to them when their show kind of starts to go under.
Right.
And it's good. I've actually seen it probably at least 3 times or more.
Okay.
because I like Steve Carell so much, and Steve
Sure.
Buscemi's fun too.
Uh-huh.
But it's again, it's a 3-star film.
Okay.
It's enjoyable, but it's not going to blow you away.
Gotcha.
Um, Next one I'll mention is Crazy Stupid Love,
Yeah, that's on my
and
honorable mentions list too. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, and that is a fun one with he does with Ryan Gosling.
Hmm.
And for for part of the movie, it's kind of like Hitch, where he Gosling plays this guy that tries to teach
Yeah.
someone how to date, and I have a
Right.
lot of fun with that.
Yeah.
And this is also a 3-star film, so I enjoy quite a bit of it, but a lot of it is kind of cringy. Some stuff involving kids that like older people and in a
Right.
romantic way and stuff like
Right.
that. The film really gets sidetracked and it's way too long, but I
Yeah.
enjoy that one too. Do you want to say a couple more and talk
Yeah.
about Crazy Stupid Love?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I totally agree with everything you just said about that one. So I don't need to say too much more about it, but it's a movie I quite liked. There's several moments that
Yeah,
are definitely laugh out loud moments, and
yeah,
I
yeah.
enjoyed the cast a lot in that. But yeah, it is a little long and kind of gets little muddled. But one I had to mention was Little Miss Sunshine. That one I
Mm,
think he's really good in it.
he
It's a
is. Yeah,
dramedy, it's a
yeah.
comedy drama, road
Hmm.
movie, reminds me a
Right.
little of kind of like the vacation movies, but it has kind of, I feel like maybe a little more um, uh, uh, substance to it. It's he plays a dad, kind of a dad who kind of goes through this character arc and learns to be a better dad, that kind of film. But that's one I really like that movie a lot. It's just he's part of an ensemble, so he's not really the focus of it. So that's why it kind of didn't make the top five. Um, One that I really liked, much more dramatic film, although there's several funny moments in it too. It's called Last Flag Flying, and
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
oh really? Okay, yeah, I'd highly
Yeah.
recommend it. It's very well done. Richard Linklater, who's a
Hmm.
favorite director of mine, directed it, and it's got a couple issues. I've got a couple issues with it, more script issues. His performance in it is very understated, from what he typically is kind of
Hmm.
known for.
Yeah.
But it's very affecting, and it's him and Bryan Cranston and Lawrence
Oh,
Fishburne.
yeah.
They're the
Oh,
three
wow.
leads, and they play former Marines, and Carell finds out that his son, who's a Marine, has passed away in action, and so it's kind of about that whole
Oh,
kind of journey of grief, and it's a road movie, and you get these kind of three good friends that have been friends for a while, but they all have very different worldviews, kind of coming together, and
oh, okay.
it's really good. I highly recommend it. I gave it, I
Hmm.
think, 3.5 stars, so definitely
Okay.
check that one out. Um, the other two I have on my honorable mentions, one I've seen numerous times. The other one I just watched this week. The one I just watched is called Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day, which is based on a
Oh,
book that I read when I was younger.
oh,
And so it's a children's book. I was like, how are they going to adapt that? It's a very short book, And it's like, how are they going to do that? But they really did a great job with it. I mean, it was
huh.
really funny. It was wholesome, the whole family can watch it. And Carell is great in it. It's a much more straightforward kind of role. But he's married to his wife is played by Jennifer Garner, and they both do a great job in the film. And there's a lot of very memorable moments. It's one I'll definitely be revisiting.
Hmm.
So that one is definitely worth checking out. Streaming on Disney Plus. If you have Disney Plus, you can check it out there. But my last one is the hardest one to cut because it's the only one I actually own. It's Date Night. I'm a huge date night fan. My wife and I have watched this numerous times. It's so funny. I've got it on the background right now, and I could watch this all the time. It's one of those that we
Hmm.
constantly revisit and enjoy watching together. We're always laughing, at the movie. It's got kind of a cool like mystery plot, that they get
Hmm.
caught up in
Hmm.
this whole crime plot. Great cast. I mean, Ray Liotta shows up and James Franco and Mark Wahlberg and all these big actors
Yeah.
show up in
Yeah.
it. So it was hard to cut this, honestly. I really it was in my
Yeah.
top five for so long, but I watched through
Hmm.
many of his films that I hadn't seen and it just didn't quite make it in there. So what do you have for the rest of your honorable mentions?
Yeah, we'll match that the feelings on
Will
date
you?
night
Okay.
there. Yeah, I've seen it a few times. Yeah, it's one of those you keep. It's just very accessible. I mean, it's just so
Yep.
much fun to pop in if you want some good laughs, and
Yes,
and Tina Fey is really good in it
she
too.
is. Yep.
I should say, yeah.
Yep.
So that's a good one. Um, Then a couple more here. I would say 40-Year-Old Virgin. I don't know if you've ever seen that
Oh,
one.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's it's quite irreverent.
Yes.
In fact, Paul Rudd is in that one too,
Right, right.
and he's in another one of his that I'll mention.
Okay.
But yeah, like that. It's just a lot of laughs in it.
Sure, sure.
So that one's pretty good. That movie is a good example of how Steve Carell is just great in a lot of these films of just playing the everyman. You
Yes,
know,
100%. Hmm.
he's not Tom Cruise. He's not jumping on
No.
trains and this
Right.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But just so relatable. I think
Yeah, for
is
sure.
just being himself and reacting. He's so good at
Yep.
that. You know.
I agree.
Uh, Last honorable mention. I really didn't want to cut this one. I've seen this one numerous times, and that's Get Smart.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, the reason it's not on my list is because I was trying to have more well-rounded. I didn't want just comedies per
Right.
se,
Sure.
on my list, so a little more variety there
Yeah.
too. But yeah, that one's at least 3.5 stars.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Great, great stuff. All right. Well, it sounds like we're ready now to jump into our top five. Bert, would you want me to start this one off, or do you want to kick it off for us
Sure.
here?
Why don't you start it off?
Yeah, that sounds great. Let me do it. All right. So, my number five is a movie that I'd never seen before this week. I'd heard about it. Bert, you specifically mentioned I had to see this one. It's called Dan in
Oh,
Real Life.
nice.
Man, this movie was so good, so well made,
Yeah, yeah.
very well written. Peter Hedges is the director. He co-wrote it with Pierce Gardner. They did a great job with the script. It's really well written. It's only about an hour and a half, hour and 38 minutes is the runtime.
Hmm.
Budget, I was a little surprised. It was kind of a higher budget than I was expecting, 25 million, which I guess nowadays is kind of a smaller budget. Grossed 68.5 million, so it made its money back and then some. It's just a very grounded, relatable film, all about family. It's all about this family that goes on this, kind of vacation together, at this house in Rhode Island, and it's just very very authentic. I felt like this was a real family. I was just kind of peeking in on, like the way they interacted with
Right.
one another. They're playing games together and having fun, and the
Yeah.
way they would just communicate with one another. It felt very much like how a real family would communicate, like this. So on that level, it was very grounded, very believable. I guess I'll give away kind of the basic plot is he's a widower raising three daughters, and while they're out on this family vacation, he happens to go into this bookstore and meets this beautiful lady who they kind of hit it off with instantly. He hits it off with her instantly, and he ends up getting her phone number, and he's excited. Hey, first person he's going to be dating since his wife passed away, and he's very excited. He's talking to his family about it, and then ends up his brother walks in and introduces his girlfriend, and it's this lady. And so all
Hmm.
the chaos that ensues afterwards is quite fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's just really good. I liked even the look of the movie, the cinematography, the locations. I'm guessing it was shot on location in Rhode Island somewhere. It seemed like it. Um,
Right.
just beautiful, beautiful, it's kind of small town and shots of the ocean and things like that. All the performances are great. Dane Cook, who many people know as a stand-up comedian, he's done several movies. I've never seen him in anything that I thought he was particularly great in. This movie,
Agreed. Yeah.
he was really good in. I thought he was
Yeah.
excellent in this film.
Hmm.
He's very much likable character too. You kind of feel for him
Yeah.
as much as you feel for Steve Carell. But all the actors just did such a great job. Several moments that are just laugh out loud funny, just
Yeah.
situations or dialogue or whatever it may be. So I'll definitely be watching this again. Looking forward to watching it again. Has a great ending. It's one of those, just excellent feel-good movies that you can watch.
Yep.
The characters learn a lot. The characters, even the grown-ups, kind of grow up a little bit, and learn a lot, which is really great. So yeah, that came out in
Yeah.
2007. I had never seen it until this week, and I'm very glad I did. So thank you, Bert, for the recommendation there.
Yeah. I'm glad you like that one.
Great. All right, let's move on now, Bert, to your number five. What do you have there?
Okay. At number five, again, to kind of be well rounded, I included Horton Hears a Who.
Oh, great. Okay,
Uh,
cool. Yeah.
Film that I had zero expectations going in. This is
Right.
purely for the kids. This one, when it
Right,
came
right.
out,
Sure.
saw it in the theater, and I knew I liked the actors a lot,
Sure.
but I didn't know much about the story or anything like that.
Uh-huh.
And I just
Uh-huh.
thought, boy, if I could pick any other movie, I probably would go to it. But I mean, this
Yeah,
one's for the
right.
kids, and I just was so impressed and
Yeah.
laughed throughout the entire film. And that's one of the reasons why it's on here, is because it's not just Carell's performance, but
Mm,
the entire film is just so intriguing and funny
yeah.
throughout. And Carell's not the only one that's funny, of course. And I
Yeah.
think he does a very good job, though, of the voice acting, as we know he is very experienced at by this point.
Right, right. Absolutely. It's a great pick. Like I said, had it in the honorable mentions. This one we've watched a number of times, and I do always
Yeah,
enjoy it when we watch it. The animation is great. It's very
yeah,
well written.
yeah.
It's got a great story, you know. Person's a
Hmm.
person, no matter how small. That message is so great, and all
Yeah,
of it just really, really was. I was surprised by it too. Like you, some of those Dr.
yeah,
Seuss movie adaptations don't really work for me. But
right.
that one is definitely probably my favorite one. That one and of course Ron Howard's live action Grinch movie I'm a big fan of too. But yeah, that's a great one. So I'm glad it made your top five. That's great.
Yeah.
All righty, moving on to my number four. This is a film from 2013. It's called The Way, Way Back.
Oh, I haven't seen
And
this one either.
oh, have you not? Okay. Okay, cool. So
No.
I got a leg up on you here. Cool. Well, I think you should definitely check it out. This is a very small budget, $5 million budget. So it's like an
Oh
independent
wow.
film, basically.
Uh-huh.
Nat Faxon and Jim Rash made their directorial debut with this film, which they also wrote. Ended up grossing 26.9 million. So it made quite a bit of money. It got a lot of awards buzz at the time. I don't know if there were any nominations or not, but I remember there being quite a bit of buzz about this a few years back. It's an hour and 43-minute runtime. And what it is it's really just a simple coming of age story. Again, about a family on vacation. You know, it's this family, um, this boy, 14-year-old boy who's the center of the film. His name's Duncan. He's played by an actor named Liam James, who does a great job in this as well. Him and his mom, his dad divorced his mom, and his mom is now dating Steve Carell. So Steve Carell's kind of
Oh,
like the boyfriend of the mom, and he has a
yeah.
daughter, and they're kind of just going off to this place where Steve Carell's character goes every summer, you know, to kind of spend the summer on vacation. And they get there, and from the opening scene, uh, Steve Carell is extremely unlikable,
Oh, really?
which is very unique for him.
That
So I'm
is.
like, that's interesting. I wonder where they're going to go with this. And pretty much the whole movie, he's a very unlikable fellow,
Oh,
which is very again just different. And I love when actors do that. They really branch out and try something different. Um,
yeah.
and I think it's really successful here. It really helps
Hmm,
tell the story of this young man kind of having to stand up for himself and you know, having to kind of protect his mom a little bit and protect their
sure.
relationship. And it's really well done. It's a very well written film. Performances are all very authentic. Um, uh, you know, it's great performances all around. Toni Collette plays the mom. Allison
Okay.
Janney plays the neighbor.
Oh, okay.
You've got Anna Sophia Robb in this. Maya Rudolph shows up as well, who I'm a huge
Oh,
fan of
okay.
her. And then Sam Rockwell, who's one of my favorite actors ever. I can't wait till we do his
Yeah.
podcast episode. Um, he's kind of a mentor figure to the young boy who kind of runs this little water park in the city, and you know he ends up hanging out with
Okay.
him a lot. He kind of you know teaches him a lot about life and things like that. So all in all, just well-rounded cast, great performances all around. It was just such a different kind of Steve Carell performance, and he's not the main character, you know. So I almost didn't pick this, but he has a prominent enough role throughout the film that I felt it was warranted that we include this one. And it was just the movie I really liked. You know, by the end of the movie, I was just like, this was a great story, you know, the great journey we
Hmm.
went on with these characters. So very funny, very enjoyable movie. Certainly some heavy dramatic moments in there as well a couple times, but all in all, just a really fun watch and a memorable movie. Very simple, kind of again, very low budget, character based type of film that I really enjoyed. So I'd highly recommend it. I think you'd
Okay,
you'd enjoy it quite a bit.
great.
Alrighty, well now we're on to Bert's number four. So what do you have there?
At number four is one of his funniest. It's called Dinner for Schmucks.
Oh yes, this is a funny movie. Yeah,
Yeah, and and the fun thing about this one is that I have a lot of problems actually with the plot and the script and stuff
sure.
like that. Some of the way the characters are played, but
Mhm.
I can't deny the. I mean, I've seen this film now probably at least three times. I
Hmm.
can't deny the fact that I'm laughing throughout the film,
Yeah,
mostly at Paul Rudd and Steve Carell and the stuff that they do or react to. So
right.
the script here doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, well, Paul Rudd, is kind of an executive trying to rise up in a company, and
Hmm.
Bruce Greenwood plays the kind of the jerky, I don't know, CEO or whatever he is,
Right,
and they have this dinner where you have to invite someone who's a schmuck or kind of just someone not very bright, I guess. And the
right,
idea is they want to make fun of the person, and
right.
it's very bizarre to begin with. And
Right.
like I said, the film's not perfect. Like Zach Galifianakis, like his part is
Oh,
very odd. I mean, a little
yeah.
bit funny, but also mostly cringy.
Right.
But yeah, so I guess the thing is, I recommend the film. It's just very very funny. Just don't
Mm,
expect a lot of continuity, and it's often nonsensical in the
yeah,
film. So
sure.
I don't know what your thoughts are about it, but it's actually a 4-star film just because I'm laughing the entire time out loud. Or not the entire time, but most of it.
Sure. No, I remember actually seeing this in theaters when it was released. We did a double feature, me and
Mm.
some friends, this and The Other Guys, that Will Ferrell buddy cop
Oh
movie
yeah,
with Mark Wahlberg. We did a double
yeah,
feature. We watched both in one day. And I found The Other Guys to be more memorable, maybe because it was
ah,
more action heavy. I don't know. So I've only actually
yeah,
seen Dinner for Schmucks one time. But I do remember
gotcha,
laughing throughout it and thinking it was very funny.
yeah,
I'm a huge fan of Paul Rudd. Even Zach Galifianakis, like you mentioned, I find him to be quite humorous in many of his films. But yeah, it's the concept that I've never really I've never had a desire to rewatch it really.
hmm
Um, is maybe why it is a little off-putting in some ways, even as funny as it is. So it's one I wouldn't mind rewatching because I do remember definitely laughing throughout it. It's just not one that
yeah.
I've ever gone back and said, "Hey, let me check that out again." But maybe I will one day soon. So
Yeah,
yeah, good.
it's. Oh, sorry, I was gonna say it's a Jay
Yeah.
Roach film. He's obviously done so many good
Yes, he
comedies.
does. Yeah.
And so he finds the comedy in it,
Right.
but it's just some bizarre choices, such as the first half of the film. I mean, Steve Carell is playing like such a kind of a ninny.
Yeah.
I guess someone maybe with like a very low IQ, and by the end of the
Yeah.
film, he's like this very sort of thoughtful and insightful,
Right.
intriguing guy. And it's
Yeah.
like it doesn't exactly track, but I am
Yeah.
laughing at parts in the
Sure.
film. So
I got you. I got you. No, I'm glad you included it. Good pick.
yeah,
All right. Well, let's move on now to my number three. It's one of those honorable mentions you mentioned. It's Get Smart. Get Smart from 2008. I
nice.
just think is such a great action comedy. Certainly leans more into the comedy. It's
Yeah,
based on the show, which I didn't realize Mel Brooks created that show. Back
really.
in the
Okay.
60s. Yeah, he co-created it with a guy named Buck Henry
Huh.
back in the 1960s. The show ran all the way from 1965 to 1970, and was pretty popular. So, yeah, whenever this idea comes up, let's bring back an old franchise or, translate a show to a movie. Sometimes it just doesn't work. To me,
Yeah.
here, it totally
Often.
works. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, this
Right.
one it just works so well because I think, the script is obviously where you start, and they had just a solid script of a fun, intriguing spy story,
Hmm.
full of, double crosses and all that. And then, getting a guy like Peter Siegel to helm it, who did Tommy Boy and 50 First Dates and, a lot of really good comedies that I like. Very confident director, giving him a pretty sizable budget, 80 million, pretty good budget there. This is, I think, his highest grossing film. It made over 230 million dollars, which is
Wow.
a big gross. So, very popular film. Carell's great as the kind of bumbling wannabe spy, he wants to be a spy so bad. He's got a lot of knowledge, he's just a little uncoordinated, I guess you could say sometimes. But I think Carell just does a great job in this role. The deadpan humor, the sarcasm, all of it is
Hmm.
just, it works so well. Honestly, I put this above a lot of the great spy spoofs like Austin Powers or Johnny
Oh
English.
yeah,
I would
yeah,
prefer this to either of
yes.
those.
Hmm.
So many laugh out loud moments. The gadgets are just kind of so bizarre, and some of them are just weird but very funny, the way they work. And the
Yeah.
thing is, the action sequences are pretty cool. Like there's a lot of fight
Uh-huh.
choreography here that actually is really fun to watch and well
Yeah.
done. It's not just all straight comedy. The action in it is really really good to watch for just for the action, and the effects hold up pretty well too. So just a solid film, quickly paced. I noticed that watching it. I just watched this last night. It's just under 2 hours, hour and 50 minutes, but it really moves by pretty quick. And this is another one where the ensemble cast that's supporting him
Yeah.
is just the highest level. I mean, you got Anne Hathaway, you got Alan Arkin, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Terrence Stamp, who's one of my favorite
Yep.
British actors. Terry Crews is in there. Um, Bill Murray has a brief cameo. James Caan also, plays the president in this. So just a great kind of supporting cast that play off of each other really well, and particularly Anne Hathaway, who he's with her the whole way through this film, and she's kind of like the perfect spy, the ultimate spy,
Yeah.
and just the way they play off each other and interact and all the it's very very fun, very fun to watch, very memorable, and probably it might be this and Date Night are definitely the two that I've seen the most from his
Yeah.
career, of his
Right.
filmography. So had to include it. So it made it in number three.
Yeah. A couple quick things on that too.
Yeah.
He's a frequent collaborator with Alan Arkin, such as in this one. And Alan Arkin gets some great lines
Oh
in
man,
in
yeah,
Get Smart.
that's
He's
right.
really funny. And then the ending, I seem to recall, it's been a few months since I've seen it, but when Patrick Warburton comes in at the end, it seems like they're kind
Yes.
of setting up some kind of sequel. And it's almost like I'm missing something that maybe goes back to the TV show, but I'm going, okay, maybe there's going to be a sequel.
That's exactly it. So I was reading on that.
Oh, okay.
The TV series featured this character, I think it's Herbie or Hermie or something like that. He's a
Okay.
robot. He's a robot who
Oh,
supposedly was
okay.
introduced in the show and became like a major character on the show, this robot spy that they built to kind of help him on
Okay.
his missions and stuff like that. So I think
Interesting.
that's what they were, yeah, obviously they were hopeful for a sequel. And I don't know why it never happened. Again, it made quite a lot of money. So I don't know
Yeah.
why it
Yeah.
didn't happen, if Carell had other obligations or what it fell apart there. But yeah, they were clearly
Yeah.
setting up like, here's their new character to bring in for the sequel, and nothing ever happened, which is kind of unfortunate. But yeah, that's what that was. It was from the show.
Gotcha.
Bert, what do you have in the number three spot?
Dan in real life.
Oh, okay, great.
By the way,
Yeah.
when I watched the film just recently here again, I've
Mm.
I've seen it 3 or 4 times.
Hmm.
But a couple interesting things came about. Number one, it suddenly dawned on me that there's a lot of similarity between this plot and The Age of Adeline.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you're right. Good point. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
funny.
and they're not the same movie. I mean,
Right,
obviously one is vastly different,
right.
but in a lot of ways, there's a lot of those situational things where one
Yeah,
character know and two characters know each other, but the rest of the people don't, and they try to figure out how to deal with it. A
right,
lot of similar
right.
situations.
That's very true. Yeah, good point.
The other thing too is I saw Emily Blunt's name on the credits when the movie started, and I thought Emily Blunt. I've seen this movie a few times. I've never seen her in it. Watched the whole movie and still didn't see her in it. I had to go back and say which character is she? And did you pick up on who she plays in this movie?
Yeah, yeah, I did.
I don't
Yeah,
know why I didn't see
she's
it.
she's
Much
she's pig
younger and
pig face.
yeah, exactly. So that was very astonishing to me.
Yeah.
But yes, this is just so enjoyable.
Mm.
The cast is terrific. John Mahoney's always been one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Uh, and Carell, sometimes he's at his best when he's uncomfortable and has
Right.
to maneuver or squirm.
Right.
And we get a lot of that here,
Yeah.
him pounding on things and taking showers he doesn't want to and stuff like that.
Jumping out windows. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is either 4.5 or a 5-star film. I've just enjoyed this one a few times. Some great situational, there's no jokes, there's a lot that's what's
Right.
great about it is some of these films that he does. They're not some big pratfall that's set up necessarily. It's
Right.
him reacting,
Yeah.
situational stuff. He just plays it so well.
He does. He does. And I could see this one going up for me, on one watch,
Yeah,
it's already 4 stars. It could definitely go up
yeah,
on rewatch. It's one that I definitely want to watch again because like I said, I love the way that he's learning so much about himself and life and the rest while he's trying to teach his kids. The whole thing is he's like an online parenting guru, I guess. He has like a blog or
yeah, yeah.
something, and
Right.
his kids end up teaching him a lot. He's got the daughter
That's
that
so,
wants
yeah,
to
it's so true.
drive, and he's getting
Yeah.
into the trouble with the traffic citations and just all that. The
That's
way that
great.
all of that played together, and it felt
Yeah.
so cohesive and
Yeah.
like one big story that was being told. It was very well made, very well written and everything. So yeah, I'm glad that made both of our lists because that's the one that definitely I feel like it's kind of under the radar. Not a lot of people I feel like have even heard of that or know
Correct.
about
Yeah,
it. So
absolutely. Absolutely.
it's on
Yeah.
Disney Plus though. So anyone who has Disney Plus can go watch it right now, and I would definitely recommend it. So excellent, Bert. Well, let's move on to my number two, which is a film from 2018 called Beautiful Boy. And Beautiful Boy was written and directed by Felix Van Groningen and Luke Davies. It's a true story. Had a budget of 25 million, grossed about 16 million. Very small film. Had a kind of limited release. It's a 2 hour runtime, and this film is based on the memoirs of David Sheff, who was a dad dealing with his son who was addicted to meth. And so this is definitely the heaviest and most dramatic of the films that I've seen Carell be a part of. And he
Yeah.
just really goes all in. No holds bar type of performance. He's really playing this guy who's just desperate to help his son
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
any way he can. And also, Timothy Chalamet is wonderful in this.
Yeah.
Easily one of
Yeah.
his best performances as well. Maura Tierney, I also really like her in this
Mhm.
as his wife. And so it's one of those just kind of acting tour de forces where we see
Yeah.
these people just really play these authentic, real life people in a very, authentic film. Um, and so you've got plenty of moments here where the characters are playing off of one another, sometimes screaming at one another. A
Hmm.
lot of anger on display here, a lot of tears shed, and then there are some moments of joy as well. So it's a very well-rounded film. It's not all dour, it's not like all
Yeah.
just a downer of a film. It's I would say well worth watching just to kind of get a peek into what this life is like, life of someone who's become, addicted and kind of given themselves over to a drug, let it kind of take over their life. So, uh, kind of eye-opening for me. Personally, I found it to be riveting, to be quite a harrowing journey that we go on. It's one of those that almost feels like a documentary, kind of you're peeking in on someone's life, like
Yeah.
I shouldn't be watching this,
Right.
but it's like it's so engaging, that you can't look away. Very good filmmaking here again. The camera work and lighting really helps tell the story. So all of that, the technical aspects are very well done. It's very well edited. It didn't feel long and drawn out like I've talked about before. Many biopics can kind of feel that way. But this
Right.
one does not feel that way at all. Every moment was engaging and exciting. Um, so very, very well made film. It's heartbreaking, yet there's some hope in it as well. You know, it's not, like I said, it's not just bleak all the way
Mm-hmm.
through,
Mm-hmm.
which is what I liked about it. So big fan of that movie. Had never seen it before this week, and I'm very glad I watched it because it was very impactful film. All right, Bert, we have now on to your number two. What do you have there?
I really need to do a flip if I can, because
Hmm.
my number one is Beautiful Boy, and I just
Oh,
want to keep talking
okay.
about it for a little bit.
Okay, yeah,
So
go ahead.
I'll
Sure.
leave my number two for last, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
But
sure.
yeah, man, I saw this film 3 days ago, and I'm still thinking about it.
Oh,
It's one of
wow.
those that
Yeah.
was very emotional for me to watch.
Mm,
Just, like you said, a lot of that I thought too, very realistic. The
hmm.
acting is excellent.
Right.
I think probably Carell's definitely his best dramatic performance.
Yeah.
As you said, the desperation,
Mm,
exasperation.
hmm.
The film uses these flashbacks, um,
Right.
because in his mind, the Carell's character, he still sees his son as he has these moments that he remembers back to when he's 12 or even
Yeah.
younger. And
Right.
so as a parent, that is just very difficult to um, deal with in your mind, I
Yeah,
guess.
sure, sure. Yeah.
And so that those are very effective, those flashbacks.
Mm.
The film also has some really great when they're outside, there's some great mountainside
Oh,
backdrops, some
yeah.
gorgeous views of Northern California.
Right.
And I have to mention the music because
Mm,
the music was different than what you might get in a typical film like this.
mm,
They use some songs, but also
hmm.
some, score,
Hmm.
and just some very good, unique music. And
Yeah.
then the song that closes the film, I thought was it's
Mm,
very odd, but
yeah.
it just kind of left you in that place.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's not the most depressing ending you could think of, but
Right,
for a
right.
film that was like an emotional roller coaster,
Yeah.
the song at the very end, it just was very fitting. And I thought this
Yeah.
is a very odd song, but it goes very well with this film. It's just
Yep.
just leaves that impression on you for a long time after. So, I mean,
Yeah.
this film is at least 4.5 stars, probably five. Just this is what I love film for, is
Mm,
dramas like this.
yeah.
Just doesn't have to be anything fancy.
Right.
Um, like you said, a true story and just
Yeah.
done so well dramatically.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely a memorable movie. I won't soon forget it. Um, I don't know if I'll soon rewatch it. It's not necessarily one that I want to revisit a lot, but I'm very glad I watched it because it was just
Yeah,
um such again, a peek into a life of someone that I know
mm-hmm.
this affects many families. So um I'm sure that
Right.
other people would probably get even more out of it than I would, but yeah,
Yeah,
very, very well worth watching. And I don't know where is it on Prime? Is that where it's streaming? I can't remember. I want to
I
say it
think I
was
did
on
see it on
Prime.
Prime.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
So yeah, definitely seek it out if you haven't, and check it out because, like I said, heavy subject matter, but very well made film and well worth watching. So excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we got your number one revealed. We'll go back and do your number two after we do my number one, which I'm curious if it's your number two. That'd be kind of funny. We had the same top two.
Maybe,
Um,
maybe.
this is Robert Zemeckis' Welcome to Marwen.
Oh no,
What I
it's
have at
not my
number one.
number.
Okay,
Not my number two.
okay,
No.
okay. Well, my number one is Welcome to Marwen from
Mm,
2018. I think we've done a Zemeckis podcast, haven't we? Haven't we already done like a
we
top five
did.
Zemeckis movies? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was not on my list because I had not seen it when we did that
Oh,
podcast. But now that I
okay.
have, it would most definitely be on that list.
Hmm.
I gave this 4.5 stars. I find this to be such a unique and impactful story. Um, Honestly, I wouldn't. It's hard to compare it to Beautiful Boy, but the story in this, I think, is almost just as impactful as Beautiful Boy. It's a different story. This is again a true story about a guy named Mark Hogan Camp who was beaten to within an inch of his life outside a bar, and the film deals with that trauma of living with that, of trying to overcome that. Um, and the various ways that he does that are a bit odd. But it's really I just found the film to be again so unique because they're utilizing the performance capture technology, which Zemeckis has kind of become obsessed with in recent years. And they're doing that because he's kind of building these I don't even know what you would call it. He's a photographer. He's building these kind of model villages with these kind of little dolls, GI Joes, that he's kind of setting up in this kind of World War II era kind of little village that he has. And will go into his mind, right? Mark's mind as he's kind of taking these pictures, and he's got this whole storyline set up with these characters. One is, of course, played by Steve Carell. Um, Never thought I'd see Steve Carell as a GI Joe action figure, but here we are. And it kind of goes into his mind, and there's these big action sequences and explosions and gunfights and all this World War II action going on. And then we have, the live action sequences, which is just kind of Mark living his life, this very secluded life. And it really deals with these, I think there's 7 women in the film that specifically interact with him, and each of them is a person, in his real life and in this kind of fictional story that's going on. And again, just that whole setup, that whole idea is unlike anything I've seen before in a movie.
Hmm.
It's that
Yeah.
it's kind of 2 movies going on at once in a way. One is affecting the other in unique ways. And so I was just really into it. I'm a huge World War II buff, I guess you could say.
Mm.
And so I like that whole aesthetic, that they had in the film, fighting Nazis and all that. But then the emotional journey we go on with Mark, outside of that is like I said, just really impactful and just leaved an impression on me. So um and I've always imagined, for any actor, no matter how great of an actor you are, and Steve Carell is obviously a great actor, but playing a real person has to be an added level of pressure,
Yeah.
in this or in Beautiful Boy, where he's taking on the real person who's actually still alive. Mark Hogancamp is still alive. And so I've always just imagined, like, how would you work past that and like constantly be worrying about what is he going to think when he sees this. But he just again he goes all in. He makes it very real, and just does a great job. Very very nuanced performance. Shows incredible range in this film. And so we kind of get to see him as just kind of this normal guy, and in the same movie you get to see him as an action hero, which I never really thought we'd see Steve Carell as an action hero. So it's kind of cool. I don't know. It's different. I know many people are turned off by this movie and didn't really like it or,
Oh,
or get
okay.
it, but it's really, really well done. I felt, again, Zemeckis, I just feel he's kind of a master of cinema at this point in his career. He can kind of do anything. And the fact that he's still taking risks like this and telling unique
Hmm.
stories, I think is really smart on his part because it kind of keeps the audience engaged and guessing at what he's going to do next, but also just shows his prowess behind the camera. Alan Silvestri reunites with Zemeckis doing the score here, has some moments that remind me of his Captain America score a little bit, the World War II stuff, which I thought was kind of
Mm.
fun. But great performance, another great ensemble cast. Janelle Monáe and Leslie Bibb and Gwendolyn Christie and a lot of different actors show up here that I really like. And so I thought it was really, again, just if you want something different, this is one that you should definitely check out because it's odd. The concept is strange. I'm sure you're hearing me explain it. It sounds like a weird thing, but it really works in the movie. So I'm very glad I watched this. My brother Carson told me about it. He's the one that watched this before I did. And so I'm glad he let me know about it so I could check it out. So yeah, big fan of Welcome to Marwen. Bert, have you seen this? Sounds like you maybe haven't.
I have seen it.
Oh, you have? Okay, not a fan?
Yeah, let me give you my thoughts. And first of
Okay.
all, I read no reviews from anybody, so I
Hmm.
was myself wondering, is this just popular with a lot of people?
Right.
And I've seen it twice actually
Oh,
now.
okay.
And I agree with I like the originality. I like
Yeah.
fresh new stories. I like
Hmm.
how the special effects are used. It's like nothing I've ever seen.
Right.
But it just to me it comes across more bizarre
Hmm.
than anything.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's interesting to look at, but I don't know that
Hmm.
what I see really makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay. Yeah.
And the story too, I think it somewhat works, but I feel like there's like I'm not really sure what message they're trying to get across. I get kind of some mixed messages from the story.
Hmm. Hmm.
Carell, no doubt, does great.
Yeah.
The prosthetics are a little, odd too.
Hmm. Hmm.
At least I think he's wearing prosthetics. It doesn't. There's times where it
Uh,
doesn't look like him at all,
right.
and
Maybe.
especially when compared to the animated model of him,
Yes. Yes. Sure.
and then him. Unless it's aging makeup, I'm not really sure what they've
Yeah.
done. And it's, I guess it's just like I haven't seen him before. Kind of like
Right.
the Foxcatcher movie. I don't know if you saw
Oh,
Carell
no,
in
I
that
haven't
one.
seen that yet. Yeah.
They gave him like a prosthetic nose, and it was just
Okay.
hard for me to like, even accept it. And that doesn't, it's not really fair.
Yeah.
But just as a film, yeah, I just don't find that I really like the story much. I just don't really
Mm.
feel like it's very engaging, and so
Okay.
I appreciate the effort. This isn't a
Yeah.
film I would say I hate,
Right.
but it's just so bizarre. I can't really
Yeah.
grasp what I'm even watching.
I get it. I get it. You're not alone there. So,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
yeah. No, that's I
interesting.
think that's kind of the consensus. This movie is was a
Okay.
huge bomb.
Oh yeah.
It had a
Okay.
budget of 50 million, only grossed 13 million. So
Mm.
it's probably might be the biggest bomb of Zemeckis's entire career. I don't know. Maybe Carell's too. It's that's a huge loss,
Yeah,
especially for
it
such
is.
a big budget and like I said, it's full of pretty big actors, huge director. So
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, why no one went and saw it. I don't know if the critics were harsh on it too or what. I don't know. I don't know what happened there, but it's a very, very interesting movie. It's streaming now on Max, so you can check it out for yourself and let us know what you think. All right, Bert, we're on to your number, going back to number two for you, right? Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Okay. What do you have?
So my last one here is going to be Evan Almighty.
Oh wow. Okay. You know what? I have not seen this, shockingly.
Oh
Yeah, I
no!
know. I know.
Shoot.
I know the whole story. You can spoil it if you want. I kind of get the
Okay.
gist of it, but
Yeah.
for whatever
Yeah.
reason, it's just I've never been able to see it. So,
Right. Right. Okay. Well, from start to finish, this film is so entertaining.
okay.
It's probably his Carl's funniest film. There's a lot of physical comedy that he does, and it's a
Okay.
great script.
Hmm.
The CGI is a bit ambitious, but
Sure.
it's mostly good.
Okay.
And yeah, it's the story about talking about redoing. We talked about redoing a show
Right.
earlier. This is almost like the remake of The Flood, right?
Right. Right.
And like they did a movie, did a movie about it, obviously.
Yeah.
Except he's not playing Noah.
Right.
It's just a modern telling. And as a Christian, I just I just think it's amazing this film even got made, frankly.
Right. Sure.
And But just it mirrors the original story, not just in the obvious things like the actual arc, but
Yeah.
things such as Noah didn't want to do this, neither does Steve Carell's character,
Right.
and the ridicule, and there's just so many things that if you get a chance to watch it, you'll see that it mirrors it, and it does such a great job of that, and it doesn't um, deride the Bible story. It
Sure.
doesn't do a disservice to that or
Right.
make fun of it.
Yeah.
Instead, it complements it.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
again, I'm surprised Hollywood would even go in that direction and not make a
Right.
film that just lampoons the flood or
Sure.
something like
Sure.
that. The ark.
Right. Uh-huh.
Um, the sets, the ark, they rebuild part of the ark, and
Okay.
it's a sight to behold. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about like they build a whole half of it, but I'm saying there's
Right.
giant sections of it because I watched some
Yeah.
of the behind the scenes that
Okay.
they've remade, and the scale of that, it's just to see it
Yeah.
is just it's just it's almost chilling to
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
that and then see people getting on it and the animals,
Right.
and I just think it's just tremendous.
Yeah.
So and I obviously I'm not going to give away major plot points, but I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, just basically almost a perfect comedy film,
Okay.
and a wonderful way to sort of revisit the story of the ark and pay service
Yeah.
to it, and not tear it down.
That's excellent. That sounds great. I can't wait to see it. It's one I've wanted to watch. Again, I just I couldn't find it on streaming and
Oh,
whatever
okay.
reason I haven't been able to see it, but it is a spin-off of Bruce Almighty, right? That's his same
Right. Yeah, he's
character.
playing. Yeah,
Yeah.
he starts out the first scene is him as the newscaster, and then he's
Right.
going to start this new career in politics.
Okay.
And that's good because that sort of gets him in trouble with what he's trying to do with I mean, he doesn't want to do the arc, but
Right.
as
Right.
he is kind of forced into it,
Yeah.
and then he's in the public eye because he's a
Uh-huh.
politician,
Right.
it doesn't go good for him. At least
Sure.
that
Sure.
leads to the setup of a lot of the really great jokes, or
Okay.
not jokes, but bits and that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Okay.
great script. But yeah, I really hope
That's
you get to
great.
see this one.
Yeah, I'll definitely be checking it out whenever it's available. I'll definitely be watching it because I'm quite a big fan of Bruce Almighty, with Jim
Yeah,
Carrey and
right.
him and Morgan Freeman and that whole thing. I thought that was a great story, and so yeah, I'll definitely be checking this out. It's rare that you get a great, I guess you would consider it a spin-off since it's not the same
Right.
character, but yeah, it's rare that you get a great
True.
comedy spin-off. So very curious about it.
Yeah.
Have you checked out the Ark Encounter in Kentucky yet? The
Oh no, I know about it. I know about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
driven past it a couple times,
Have you
but no, I
really?
have
Okay.
not. Yeah, because they actually did rebuild the ark
Yeah,
in
right. Yeah, the
person,
full thing.
live
Yep,
to visit. Yeah, I need
exactly.
to do that.
Yeah, we're planning a family trip out there, hopefully within the next couple years. We're trying to wait for the girls to
Oh,
get a little bit older when they can really enjoy it, and ex
yeah,
appreciate it. So yeah,
yeah,
we really want to check that out too because we're big fans of Answers in Genesis and what they do over there. So cool, man.
gotcha.
Well, it's a great pick. It's one that again, I can't wait to watch it. These top five, there's a little bit of crossover, but not as much as I thought there might be. So very, very good list. Glad that we got to do this Steve Carell podcast. Great episode. I think the audience is going to enjoy this one. I'm very curious what you guys like from this actor. I want to know what your top five is. So comment below with your top five Steve Carell movies. Again, he's kind of done it all. Like I said, he's done a lot of comedy, he's done a lot of drama. Get Smart is, I guess you call that an action movie. I mean, there's some action in there for sure that he gets in on. So yeah, let us know what you think about Steve Carell and his career. Make sure you follow both Bert and I. We're both on Letterboxd. You can check out all of our reviews for these movies that we discussed there. If you want a little bit more to go in depth, check out last week's podcast on alien invasion movies. I've got all kinds of other videos on the channel right now that you can watch. Bert, it was a blast, man. Thanks for coming up with this idea and for joining me on this episode.
Yeah, I'm just trying to push Steve Carell movies onto people because a lot of them haven't been seen. So
You're right. There's several of these that I feel like are just go unappreciated. So,
yeah,
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 make sure you guys go and check out some of these on streaming or on DVD and Blu-ray. They're most of them are available there. So, thank you again for joining us here on The Real World. Make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos, and we'll see you next time right here on The Real World.